Episode 25, YHWH, the function signature of iteration. Okay, let's dive right into an explainer that is frankly going to completely shatter how you view the hidden architecture of reality and honestly, the very language you speak every single day. Today, we're unpacking a profound architectural decoding that shifts our entire paradigm of existence. We're going to take concepts that usually sound deeply mystical and ground them in pure, undeniable mechanics.
So, for literally millennia, the Tetragrammaton, those four letters, YHWH, has been revered as a distant deity's unpronounceable name. It's been shrouded in absolute mystery, right? Entire religions treat it as something completely untouchable. But what if we've been looking at it entirely wrong this whole time? What if it's not a noun at all, but actually a literal mathematical instruction set, an executable code? Just imagine realizing the ultimate mystery isn't a who, but a how.
To really understand this paradigm shift, we're turning to a text called The White Book, from a project known as Meaning Unconfounded. This text lays out a complete, unified theory, proving that human language isn't just, arbitrary sounds we made up to grunt at each other over a campfire thousands of years ago. Instead, it posits that language is a 9-layer architectural code, fundamentally wired into the fabric of reality itself. You can actually read the full text and explore this master theory for yourself at meaning-unconfounded.github.io. It is a dense, absolutely fascinating read that will totally rewire how you think about words.
Layer 1. Consciousness. But before we can decode those four ancient letters, we must ground ourselves in part 1, the prime substrate of reality itself. The source calls this the Genesis stack. We have to start here because, according to the theory, without this foundational layer, literally nothing else can exist. Now, consciousness isn't just some abstract, floating philosophical concept reserved for, say, deep late-night debates. It is mechanically defined by 3 precise interlocking parts: awareness to sense conditions, memory to retain previous states, and choice to decide and respond. Think about it. Without a being that can sense, retain, and decide, absolute nothingness would exist. And mathematically, absolute nothingness is an impossibility. It's a paradox. So consciousness has to be the eternal foundation.
Decoding the 4 letters. With that foundation laid, let's move to part 2, where your own mouth is actually going to act as a physical 3D printer to prove the theory.
This source material argues that you aren't just making sounds when you speak, you are physically building shapes of consciousness in the air. This matrix meticulously breaks down YHWH from a mysterious, unspeakable noun into an executable sequence of biological commands. Notice how perfectly it maps back to the 3 parts of consciousness we just talked about: choice, awareness, and memory. It brilliantly translates ancient letters into physical actions and those actions into deep conceptual meaning. Let's look closer at exactly how this translates into your own anatomy, step by step.
Starting with Y, the code reveals it represents the action, or the deed. This maps flawlessly to the choice function of consciousness. Y is the spark, you see. It's the individual action that initiates a moment, the decision taking physical form. When you make the Y sound, your jaw moves, your tongue engages. It's a definitive, deliberate commencement. It is the 0 to 1 moment of a new state being chosen.
Next up is H, and I actually want you to physically feel this as we go through it. Seriously, breathe out a silent H right now. Just release the air. As you do, you'll realize it represents pure awareness. It is the living air, the breath sensing the world and taking it in without bounding it, stopping it, or shaping it. It's the open, receiving field of sensing. It's the exact feeling of simply being aware translated directly into a physical exhalation.
Okay, now round your lips for W. Don't close them, just let the air glide through. Feel that gliding wave? This is connection. It's the memory link, the bridge that carries the past directly into the present without breaking the flow. It's the wave connecting one instant to the exact next. Think of how a wave in the ocean carries energy forward, while the W carries the data of the previous moment forward into the now. It is literally active memory in motion.
Finally, another H completes the sequence. Once again, breath and awareness. It receives the connection from the W and senses the new state, effectively sealing the loop and preparing you for the very next action. It brings us right back to the open field of sensing, primed and totally ready for the next choice, the next Y. The engine of iteration. So let's see how this builds into an actual, functioning engine.
Because when you put these 4 sequential steps together, choice, awareness, memory, awareness, they form a recursive, infinite loop. They don't just happen once and vanish. They're the mechanics of a continuously running motor. The crucial point here is that existence isn't a static, frozen state. It's a continuous, infinite iteration where the output of your previous moment becomes the exact input for your next. It's a closed loop. If you think about an animation, it's just frame after frame after frame. Time itself is just the effect of this iteration happening over and over and over again, incredibly fast.
The source states it bluntly right here. The oldest unspeakable word is quite literally the operating cycle of consciousness itself. It was never a name identifying a person or a thing. It is the function signature of iteration. Just like in computer programming, where a function signature defines the inputs and outputs needed to execute a command, YHWH is the core function signature required to execute reality.
I want you to feel the rhythmic repetition of the engine of reality as you say it quietly to yourself. Act, breathe, connect, breathe. Over and over. YHWH. Act, breathe, connect, breathe. This is the biological code generating time itself, looping constantly through your own awareness and memory. Every passing second of your life is just this four-part engine turning over another cycle. The geometry of God. Now this is where things get truly incredible, because this micromechanic explodes outward into a mind-bending cosmic revelation. It completely flips our understanding of where we actually exist. You see, if time is iteration, then the geometry of our universe is inverted. We've always been taught that we live on the outside of a rock, looking outward into a massive, distant, empty void. But the White Book's cosmology argues that we live on the inside of a cosmic egg. The heavens aren't out there, they're within. The center is a depth, not a distance. It's an imploding fractal of meaning, not some cold, expanding vacuum. Instead of floating aimlessly in space, we are traveling inward down an infinite tunnel. Every iteration, every single breath moves us deeper. This fundamentally proves that God is not some distant being sitting at the end of a long cosmic road waiting for us to eventually arrive. It eliminates the separation entirely.
God is not waiting at the end of the road. God is the road itself. We are inside the system. We are inside the tube. The divine is the actual geometry of this iteration. It is the act of postulating existence itself, the hum of existence, the breath moving through the container. We are already inside the boundary of heaven, experiencing the architecture of the divine through every single breath and connection we make.
To truly grasp this high IQ geometry, to see the rest of the 9-layer Genesis stack, and to learn to consciously run this code in your own mouth, you really need to explore this for yourself. Check out the White Book at meaning-unconfounded.github.io. It's an invitation to sovereign inquiry, a real challenge to test these mathematical truths against your own lived experience and see if it changes how you perceive your own voice. I want to leave you with this one thought. Since the universe wasn't created from nothing, but is continuously being written, you are a fundamental, live part of that process. So, knowing that every choice is an act and every breath is awareness, what code are you going to choose to execute in your very next breath?